Morning, everybody. Welcome back to In the Pit with Jeff. It is Monday, March 2nd, minus 10 degrees. Minus 10 or minus 14. I'd have to check again, but doesn't matter because we're inside. Down in the basement, in the pit. Just thought I'd give you a quick update of what I've done on my dad's Taylorcraft over the weekend. I had kind of a productive day. Looks like a bomb went off in here, but we got some progress done. So when I redid my push rod, and I was saying that I might be half-inch short or so, or an inch short, that came out pretty right. So what I did was I took a piece of thick wall brass tubing, tapped the inside to 440, and then flexed everything, and then got a short piece of 440 rod and it just had a unthreaded down at that end. I don't know if you can see it. I filed a little slot in the middle of the brass tubing. One was so I can see where the center basically was of the two pieces, and also that when I start putting solder into the ends, like I start get my mitt down in here, start flowing solder in here and down at this end and that, and keeping the soldering gun here so that the solder will wick. I can see that it made it to there. Even with you get those brass, threaded brass ones already made, and then you can put your piano wire inside. Sometimes what I'll do is drill a little hole in the end of it, so it would be down at the threaded portion end. Put a little hole in there, and the same thing as you can watch the solder wick down, and when it starts to come out the hole in it, sorry about that, you guys went out of focus, flow through there. So moving over here, I took my dad's old fuel tank out. Actually, we'll go for a walk into the mess over here. I put it over here because it stinks, and it's just pretty grody. So I can wash all that out at a later date. But I went through my stash. Sorry about that, guys and girls, getting sick. Yep. Furnace just came on. So I had a 16 ounce, might be a Duobro tank. So I stuck that in there. My dad had just a big balsa wood floor. It went right across, and then he just had glued the throttle servo onto it. Well, I kind of like having things accessible that I can get at for maintenance. This is an old Royal Titan servo. When we used to have when I was like 14, even younger than that, in one of our arenas, we'd have a model airplane show, and outside they'd have a flying event, and we could pick up these servos for a song. But I don't know if that's Royal. That's same with the Royal for the Royal models airplanes. They must have had them built from something. But this thing is stiff as anything. So what I ended up doing was I took a piece of light ply and I made a plywood floor for it, and it fits in perfectly. And I'm thinking that this piece of plywood actually might have been the where my dad had cut out for this former, because you got the hole where you started the drill bit down there for your scroll saw, pop the blade through and cut her out. At the front, inside, I have a piece of hardwood going across, just a short one in between the motor mount rubbers, because yeah, you have to remember that these well nuts, when you crank these things down, they expand on the backside, so they don't pull out. So how to make sure the tank floor doesn't interfere with that. I don't know if you can see in there. Let me get a little pointer. So I gotta find out where I am here. Let's see if I can do this. So I just put 3 screws across. So what I did was I took the fuel tank from outside here, held it up over to where the center hole would be for all the fuel lines to come out, measured down to where the bottom of the tank would be, scribed a line, and then I just drilled 3 holes, used some servo screws, went through, screwed a hardwood block across, left a 1/8 gap, and put in another hardwood block on top. So basically, I'll do it over here to show you. Basically, these weren't the piece of wood that I used, but basically on the back side of the firewall, I got it blocks like that, and then the front of the fuel tank floor just goes in there and it'd be like a tongue, and just hold that in. Ran a piece of hardwood. Well, it's not really hardwood, but could be pine or whatever. Across there for the back of the fuel tank. Also, along this former here, I ran a 1/4 by 1/4 stringer just across, give it some support, and to make sure that it didn't interfere with, I don't know if you can see in there, it's pretty dark, interfere with those servos mounting screws. Mounted the servo into the tray. I left this like this because I still gotta mount, I'm gonna put a plate across, probably put the battery mount there, and then the receiver, but we'll worry about that when it comes. Got the cables tightened up on the rudder. The only thing that I have a problem with is with the come over here, with the weight of the plane. The I have to probably put a bushing in here. I try tightening this up a bit, but I think this hole's probably bigger than the wire, so this is kind of rocking. Might have to just do up some cable to get that tail wheel working properly. Come back down here. We pulled the engine rate out, which was a good thing because I gave the engine a look over. In the back, I don't know if you can see it, but in the back there where the pressure fitting, did have a spot for a pressure fitting if you wanted to run a pressure fitting. My dad had this screw just sitting in there, but it was loose as heck in there, and you can't tighten it up because it's long, and then it would interfere with the connecting rod and that coming around. So I held the engine up on its nose, while the nose pointing up, face up, and just took a 632 tap with just a dab of grease on it. Just ran a tap through to clean up the threads in the backing plate, and then found a 632 Allen socket head bolt, just 1/4 inch long, a lock nut or a lock washer, and a bit of Loctite. Stuck that in the back of that. So that was a good find. I drilled a hole in the firewall just there because I was gonna move the push rod over there, but then you got the exhaust and all that stuff. So the more I thought about it, his little let's see where we are. His little bell crank system worked out pretty good. So basically, all I had to do is just run a little piece of piano wire across there, and I got it set up pretty good. And that's just an old Towers servo, and it's probably the same people that would make the Royal servos, but it's good enough for throttle. It works okay. New tank, fuel lines, got all that. Just got to get some filters. This will be my fill. Probably just put a dot in there. Sometimes I use the Dubro quick fill ones, but I don't have any that are serviceable right now. So got that. This will come up, go up to the carburetor, fuel filter in between. I like to run a filter. Coming down here will be pressure line. Probably just run it behind the motor mount. Tee off. Either use this T or a Y one that I have to tee off to pressure, muffler pressure, and then overflow through here out the bottom. And that's one of my dad's homemade mufflers. The only thing I have to do is secure the blocks. The blocks were broken off even though he's had a little piece of rubber there, the blocks are broken off the firewall. Both sides. See in there, both sides there. But other than that, she's coming along. Every time I mark stuff off the list, I always add more stuff on the list. What else can I talk about? I'll just stick this up on the nose just to show you. I just have to glue these guides back in. There's the patches on where I'd originally done cut. Come over here to the mess. Originally just made a template and cut a little slightly oversized for the monocoat to fit on there, and then you secure it in between. And it would just hang over a little bit, and then secure it to the little crisscrosses in the stab construction. Only problem was that, and then keeping it on low heat, because as soon as you go to hit the corner edges, she just wants to. So I just made it a bigger piece. And if you're doing any patchwork or anything, if you're either using a circle, rectangular, or square, circle doesn't matter, rectangular or square, always just nick the corners off of your patch on a little 45, just so that way it'll stop you from hooking it if you're trying to clean your airplane or starting to peel up. Come over here. This is just in this is a package just for reciprocating blades and that. But if you need push rods and stuff, go to your local bike shop. These are just bicycle spokes. Now it's just this is in a old reciprocating saw blade thing I had. But basically, I think these are 256s. Only problem is some of the threads on some of them aren't that long. But I don't know what motorbikes size they'd use if they got 440 or bigger spokes. But cheap supply, get a pile of them. My dad had a stack of those. And let's see, I guess that's about it. I think for now we're poking along pretty good. Like I'll get a new receiver for it, unless I use put the original Futaba. I think he was I was 56. I think my dad's was 54. Could always put one of those receivers back in. Keep it old school. But other than that, probably work on the wheel pants today. Get those back on. And a few little odds and ends, and away we go. So I just thought I'd give you a quick update. So everybody, stay safe. Have a great day. Talk to you later from In the Pit with Jeff. Bye.